Well, thank you very much, and thank you for coming. And I was listening to you all speaking now. It was like a wonderful sound, the melody, the music of connection. Yeah, you're sitting, engaging and communicating across the table. So what I'm actually doing now is to disconnect you all from that, which is not my proper meaning, of course. So let's just say that we're putting you on pause. And then we'll see what this can lead to of more connection. Because I do not know if I could talk and do like this in the beginning, right after the amnesia. What I do know is that I did not talk. I was passive. I was in a state of being quite different from the state of being in which I am now. I received impulses from the surroundings without knowing that I received impulses from the surroundings, without thinking of that, without knowing that I was in a little village in the mountains of Middle East China, without knowing what the mountains of Middle East China are, how they are connected to the world, that I was born in Norway, what Norway is, that it was Chinese language that was being spoken, that I knew only a little bit of Chinese. I had no clue about language and what that is as a concept and how that functions connected to culture and what culture is for each human and how it develops through our upbringing and connection to the world. And here we are blessed with the surroundings. We are definitely a part of them. Could we exist disconnected? I doubt it. I just met a friend I haven't seen in many years. He's here now, Kalle, a magician. We worked together on a festival a few years ago that we organized. And we spoke about elements that you take out, for example, in the way that science look at it. And you can describe it from all angles. And you get a really good kind of understanding, at least you may feel so. And it's really useful, and it excites me. But if there was not a context to take these elements or phenomena out from, well then we couldn't do it like that, could we? Nothing can exist just independently, it seems. There needs to be a connection to the rest. And through that, and our connection, of course, then we get these understandings. So I'm there passive in this mountain village without thinking about what I think. I was helped by people who probably understood that something had happened to me that I did not understand myself. They might not have understood it completely. I don't think any one of them knew it before, but they tried to help. They went through my things. When I remember back, I see these pictures. I think also they tried to call people that I knew, because I had a bunch of telephone numbers and addresses with me in my things. And I don't think that they managed to get in touch with someone. So finally, maybe after, let's say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days is the estimation of how long time I was there. A few of them led me to a bus and said, when you get off this bus, you have to call this number. When they said that, it was important. In a way, they connected to something in me. When someone goes like, this is really important, you know. You have to do this. It's hard not to get any feeling at all. Someone is addressing you, focusing on you, and that person has an intention, you know, and that intention or meaning is transferred to you. And then in a way, you know, when you have your base, your personal base, you have some kind of understanding and feeling directly. I had a momentary understanding and feeling when that person said that to me. But when I was on that bus half a minute later and they were not there, the 3 people who took me to that bus, the world was rolling by, well then that was what was important. That was what took my attention. And in the same way, you know, people talked about my mother, both before and after I met her. And for most people, mothers are very important, I know now. You know, and that means that when you talk about a mother, you can probably transfer that to others. So people were going, you really have to get to know this person better. It's possibly the most important person for you in the whole world. Do you understand that? No? You feel something, you laugh, something is happening, there is some kind of sensation. I did also have some kind of sensation in that moment when that was transferred to me. And when I looked at the light or the projector in the next moment, well then that was what was important. It was not because my mother was unimportant, of course, or I didn't want her to be important. It was because I did not have the connection to my, what I called, emotional base, which we may also think about potentially as our emotional memory. We all kind of relate to our 5 senses. Maybe we have 6 or 7. The 2 last ones are more maybe diffuse, but 5 at least. You know, we get these impulses every day from the visual, from the auditive, the tactile, taste, smell. And then these impulses mix and they create emotions, feelings. And then we may think, potentially also simplified, but in a way, it feels good to think like that for me, that these emotions, as they progress and become more and more, you know, they add to each other. The sum of all of these emotions is the emotional base we all have at a set point, which is the base, of course, for new experiences and how we experience these new experiences, what kind of feelings we do get. And when you do not have a relation, like most people do, to that emotional base or emotional memory, then it might be like I experienced it. You know, it was in me somewhere. There was a link in communication, in connection. It was transferred to me. I felt it in that moment, but then the next moment took my attention and gave me the feeling of that moment. I didn't linger with the feelings. They were there, but I couldn't stay with them in a way. And I'll try to maybe describe this in a way of physical behavior. Because when I went off that bus, in the city of Wuhan, a city of 10 million people in eastern China, without knowing, of course, what a city of 10 million people is, without having a plan, and without thinking that I possibly should have a plan, I didn't remember that I was going to call that number, you know, because that was probably 10, 12 hours ago. I found out later that trip probably took, that someone told that to me. So I went off and I started walking around in this city. And a few months later, after getting back to Norway and having gone through a lot of tests and met a lot of doctors, and so it was stated that it was first of all the visual memory that was affected or erased even. But again, as I just said, these impulses, of course, they are connected to each other. So when the visual was gone, then a lot of other knowledge was gone also. That day, I walk around and I don't have then too many visual images when I have new experiences, but I have a lot of color associations in the beginning, the first months. Maybe because I was lacking images to relate to, because the hard disk was kind of blank, empty, to try to use a metaphor. And I remember a lot of red from that day. And it was clothes, you know, people were wearing this. And when I think back now, it was mainly men. You know, they were wearing this red trousers with white brings around, like a red long coat with white brings around here. Many of them had a big belly. It was like a black belt around here, a white beard. Some had like red cheeks. Some wore glasses. They had this red hat, you know, with a white brink again and a white whatever ball at the end. And who are we talking about? Santa. And wow, what an amount of Santas that was in Wuhan that day. And why was that? Because it was Christmas. Did I have any connection to that? I didn't. I had no relation to Santa or Christmas as I do know Christmas now. And in China, Christmas is not a traditional maybe way of celebrating an important festival as in Europe, for example. But it's become like a pleasure festival. And again, maybe a bit commercial. Shops, they put Santas on the street. And the Santas I met that day, they were probably quite much like I now know that Santa should be, you know, smiling and a while and hey, hey, and when I walk past one of them, he's smiling to me, I smile back, and he gives me a gift. I take the gift, exactly like this. I don't have a relation to Christmas gift either. I didn't know it was to me, I didn't know it was to open, there was nothing loose that told me like logically that there was something inside. So I walk on. And when somebody smiles to me a little bit similar to what Santa did, I give the gift on. Exactly in the same way. Copy-paste. Blank hard disk, copy-paste. And then, back to a few months later when I was back in Norway, you know, I met a lot of people that knew me from before, and I didn't know them. And I got told a lot of stories, and I was shown a lot of photos, videos about my life before, and taken to places by these, you know, what had we done together before? I was, of course, experiencing that in a nice way, because they were giving that intention and meaning to me. And I started, in a way, collecting information without knowing it. I was processing it automatically, in a way. There's a simplification here using data terminology, because of course we do not have emotions too much, and we do not really know if a computer has a style or something, but we may think that it could develop, and maybe we put style into it. Any case, I get this information and I copy-paste it into another setting. I just used sentences from one dialogue in another without thinking, oh, now I can use this fits well here. No, it just happens automatically. More and more. It's a copy-paste. And sometimes that works well, and other times it doesn't work too well, and it becomes funny because it was a bit of a misunderstanding, things like this. And I laugh also, as people laugh. And gradually, as I go from this, I started saying passive to becoming active, and then understanding the world a little bit more and more, and understanding how amazingly unlimited and exciting it is. I go to be proactive. And as I do this, in the process, I do not really know what I relate to, because I do not have the connection to those feelings, that emotional base, which is potentially, you know, personality and style also. And through the stories that I get about my life, I gradually become more and more like the people knew me before. After 2-3 years, I get a lot of claps on my shoulder, and people say, it's so good to have you back. Now you are the wind, the Øyvind, actually most people say, because that was the name before. And wind is kind of a name that has come after, become a part of my style. The one that we know from before, the glimpse in the eye is here. The glimpse in the eye? What is that? It's unthinkable that I did not have any reflection in my eyes that period before they started seeing that glimpse. And actually now we've skipped into a couple of years after memory loss. The 2 years of connection without, or copy pasting without too much connection to this emotional base. Probably we can think that if I hadn't gotten back to Norway, and I hadn't gotten all these stories, I might not have been recreated in all these people's ideal image of me. But when I did, I started gradually to feel my style, not only being able to use the expression like copy-paste, for example, from one situation to another. And when I felt it, I also felt kind of personality and what that means and what the abstract expression of identity, personality, and style means. Because if you have a cup, you relate to it, you hold it, it's a little hard, it's warm, you drink from it, you have a taste. You might even get, it's good, and you might get less thirsty. So it's concrete, it's easy to relate to. You use the word cup afterwards, and you have a feeling of it. But style, doubt, personality, memory loss, ambition, willpower, love, stupidity, all of these thousands of abstract, non-concrete expressions that exist in all languages. Without a connection to the emotion or the experience that have given you that feeling of understanding, well, you might not have an understanding of it. And I didn't. I was just using it. Creating then humor, as I was getting to, people laughing. Humor in itself, it's an abstract expression. You cannot kind of drench it, hold it, step on it like the floor, or hang in it like the ceiling. But I was laughing, and it was nothing fake in that. Then I was asked, okay, so you got that joke, or you took that point. The point? I didn't know what the point was. Point itself is abstract. You need a connection to get that. You need to understand that, to have a relation to it. But it was not fake at all. It was funny. I was laughing. I was mirroring, again, copy-pasting, mirroring the surroundings. So, you see, a process must have happened from that point of being, that state of being, to now. Hopefully, I managed to transmit to you that I do have a connection to the emotions now. And through feeling my style, my personality, and finally also my identity, in a way, in the surroundings, I also understood that, hey, I'm getting in touch with something which is not only the 2-3 years after amnesia, it's actually all my emotional base, the emotional memory, the sum of all experiences that I had before amnesia. And from that kind of point and onwards, it's been a connection, past, present, and also thoughts into the future for me. And it has developed further also. And then we can think that the glimpse in the eye actually that came out just then, through all these stories of 2 years. If I hadn't gotten all these stories, if I'd stayed in China, maybe I hadn't developed into being like that. They knew and remembered from before, which shows that I wasn't really the first 2 years either. So maybe that's like a direct channel then, this glimpse in the eye. A direct channel to the emotional base, to the memory, personal style, which then is all connected. Being here today is of course also connecting to you. This process of going from cultureless to become a culture lover is a process of connection. It's a process of senses. It's a process of collaboration, getting people together, getting things to happen, is connecting the world. Now, sharing is of course a part of that. And without knowing it and thinking about it, I've shared another story with you, right behind me. And it's not my story, and you might know that. It's someone else's story of me. You may think, who might have made that story? Your mind might have functioned and to see without you knowing it. It's like it's trying to put the pieces together. You have a story going in the back, some visual story with some points, and then I'm talking about another experience. Your mind is probably trying to pinch this together without you being conscious about it, you know. But it's definitely connected, you know. What you've seen here and what you've seen here is not something way apart. It's actually together. And by being here and sharing this with you, you know, I'm trying to connect to you. And in a way, by looking at your faces and feeling the silence and the emotion, maybe, the vibration in this room right now, I feel that there is a connection. And the sharing and the gift part that I've been touching upon can be a part of that. And tomorrow, we are arranging a festival in Sandvika. It's the 5th anniversary of this festival called Kulkinox, Cultural Equinox. And you know, the equinox is actually also tomorrow. It's the first time it's really right on spot day, because it needs to be on a Saturday to be a festival we found some years ago. And this year, 5th anniversary, it's there, you know, on the day. And you know, equinox, it's the day and the night equally long. Well, Kulkinox is the day and the night and the culture, which is equally long. And to share a little and connect to you, I invite any of you here to get a free festival pass and to go to that festival, which is a mix of music, dance, theater, multimedia, poetry, stunts. Now, and take part and share that and connect to a lot of interesting people who will be there tomorrow. So, I brought this and a bunch more. Anyone who has time tomorrow, please come up to me afterwards and you will get your free festival ticket. For you guys out there in the world, I look forward to the next chance we have to connect. Have a great day and a great life.